Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we use our good and bad experiences, friendship, and passions to inspire thought provoking conversation and soul driven advice. This season, we'll travel from the fool's journey to the hero's adventure to better help you create a life worth living and step more brightly into yourself inch by inch.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, I haven't gotten to say that yet this season. That's new.
That's right, because I've done it for the first six. Oh my gosh, how was that? How'd that feel?
It felt good. I'm excited. These have been fun conversations lately.
Yeah, good. I have a small little thing I need to bring up though. Well, I jumped ahead in the notes, and apparently I'm ruining your life.
Yeah. Is there a question? That is in the notes. Tracy and Amy chit chat about how Amy is ruining Tracy's life. Yes, that is the outline for the introduction of the show.
I'm ruining your life.
So the past 6 episodes, I have not had to do any of the prep work. Amy has been taking us on the first part of the journey, the hero's journey, and you've been basing it on a book, right?
Yeah.
And the book is The Writer's Journey, and is it by Vogler?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's of course for writers, and of course based on The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell.
Yes. So so how we used to like alternate every 2 episodes who would be the producer who'd come up with the idea and the general outline. And this season we're kind of doing more like in sprints because we each kind of have like bigger topics we want to bring up. And it's been really interesting for me to just come along for the conversation, right? To not like have to look at notes, just to respond to what you already said. I didn't read the book. But after our last conversation, like that was the end of your sprint. And I was like, I have more to say and explore. Do you mind if I stay with this? And what did you do? Do you know what you did?
Oh, yeah.
What did you do?
I took a million pictures of the book and sent it to you.
You sent me a bunch of pages from the book. And Amy, do you know what I want to do now?
What?
I want to read the damn book. Amy, how many books do I have to read right now?
About 117.
That's a really good guess. I have a whole entire bar cart in my living room that I call my To Be Read cart. And you know what I'm doing right now? I'm reading the 32 checked out library books on my dining room table. And as I say that estimate seems low. And they have 3 more on hold for me as of today.
So here's the good news. I own the book, so you can always borrow it. However, it is a book
I need things to read. I'm so uninspired.
Yeah, that's right. I do use it when I'm writing, but it actually did help with this topic because the Hero with a Thousand Faces is very thoughty, wordy type of.
It's academic.
Yes, it is. Yes, academic, or in Amy speak, thoughty and wordy.
Both are true.
But the hero with, the writer's journey really goes at it from writing a book, from that standpoint of writing a book and what you're putting your protagonist through and what, who the villain is and things like that. But I actually liked that aspect of thinking about ourselves as that person going through that story, right?
Yes. So, clearly both the hero's journey, the writer's journey are based on people going through journeys, right? And they're both just trying to find the common themes in the mythology that we all go through. Yes. And specifically in the writer's journey, it's so that you can tell a better story. It's to help tie up loose ends. They talk a lot about like the different climaxes, right? Like how a bunch of different things happen, that a hero might kind of face the same similar type of trial twice, so that to test whether or not they really learn the lesson, right? And so like you sent me, I think, no more than 5 or 6 screen caps, and 2 of them were of the same page just to make sure I got the whole page. But like, damn, what a metaphor for life. Like she really like no wonder we're both so drawn to stories and storytelling and TVs, movies, right? Miniseries, books, podcasts, all of it. Because it is so relatable and they, when it's done well and done intentionally, you can really connect with a character and what myth they're going through in life, right?
Yeah. So wait, let me clarify. So is me ruining your life just giving you another book to read?
Yes. Amy, quite literally. Well, first of all, I'm still have to start The Hero with a Thousand Faces again for my next sprint.
Yeah.
Then some books I ordered 2 weeks ago that didn't realize how long they were going to take to get to me. And then the snowstorm delayed them further. They came in today. And then, I got all this back here. There's this never ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always in the middle of like 9 books and it drives my accountability partner. He can't understand it. He doesn't know how I do it. And I was like,
I
well,
understand it.
right. Like once it grabs me, I'll stick with it. But until
Yep.
then, it's whatever mood hits. But now I don't have it. And all I want to do is read it. And then I know once I read it, all I want to do is write a story. And like, I'm just not in a place for that right now. I have some other goals I need to get through.
I'm totally here. Let me throw a wrench at you.
But it's a book. If you can dodge a book, you can dodge a ball. No.
Isn't it if you can dodge a wrench?
It is. That's what made me think of it.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so our last episode 106 was rebirth and renewal. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I mean, it amazes even me as the co-creator and full-time participator in this podcast how closely the topics relate to what I'm going through in my life, because that's very rarely the plan, right? Like we just pick topics that interest us, but somehow like we've been on this 6-week journey and I'm starting to recognize like some of the struggles I've been going through, and like I haven't had a name for like this transition period of my life. In the past we've kind of talked about like, oh, the caterpillar doesn't just become the butterfly, it goes into the cocoon and then it emerges and it's messy and it's painful. And I was like, I'm not in the cocoon anymore. And I'm definitely not an effing butterfly anymore. Like that's gorgeous, but that's not what this is. And it's, sometimes when I talk about it to people, especially mental health professionals, they're like, it's depression. And I was like, well, it's not just depression. And when we started talking about rebirth last week, that really stuck with me, this idea of being reborn. And as we talk about this heroine's journey and talking about coming out of the cave, like happily ever after isn't the end of the story, right? Like those characters move on.
Yeah. Happily ever after is not the end of the story. And I feel like there's been books and plays and things like that written about that. But I think in society, we put so much emphasis on like these turning points, like, oh, it's my wedding day, right? And now it's happily ever after. And no, it's not. The wedding is not the most important thing, right? But we put that emphasis on that.
Or even, I just think of graduation, right? Like how many times do we start out as freshmen in life, right? In the first of kindergarten grade, and then you finally get to the top of that school and you graduate. And then at the next phase of your schooling or career or life, you're back to being the new guy, right? Like you were top of the world, big dog, knew it all. And then even though you had like this culmination that even was ended with the ceremony, right? Like acknowledging you've learned all this amazing stuff and you've grown as a person. Now we're going to push you down the other side of the hill and ask you to climb another one.
Yes, we're going to push you down the other side of the hill. We're not going to give you any kind of help or resources or anything like that because you've graduated. Yeah. You've done all the work. You should know better. Boom. There you go. And now you're on your own. Yeah.
And so, when I think of like that, coming out of the cave and and you've slayed your dragons, right? Or whatever you were doing on your journey, whatever, kind of your climax, your fight was. Once you've rebirthed, like I said, even if you've leveled up, even if you've graduated, you're now a new person. In the world most likely looks like a new place to you. Even if you return home, like even if that was the plan all along on your journey was to circle back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say you were to continue on a journey and start a new track, a new life, like no matter what, like you are now a new person. And I think that's that phase that I'm kind of stuck in and trying to figure out the how maybe a little too much. But like that, when you're reborn, you're now an infant. And you now are going through these different life stages, but you're in a fully grown body with some wisdom from before, hopefully, right? Or lessons learned. And you have to go through these life stages, and you might go through them very quickly, but like infant, toddler, child, tween, teen, young adulthood, and you get to make choices along the way, and hopefully informed choices, right? And like, who do you intentionally want to be now? But as we just talked about, sometimes when you're pushed down that hill and like this new journey is starting, or this new path or whatever that's in front of you, you don't know who you need to be, right? Like that's my
You
favorite.
don't even know who you want to be. You don't. Yeah. And sometimes when you're pushed, you're not given the luxury of space and time to figure that out. Right. It's almost like you got to figure it out while you're tumbling down the hill.
Well, and so often, when we go, sometimes it's a dark night of the soul, sometimes those cave diving things, right? Like these journeys as adults. What I loved about what she said in the book was sometimes those journeys are just of the mind. Sometimes they're physical, sometimes they're journeys of the body, sometimes they're journeys of the soul. And one usually kind of triggers a journey in another, so like let's say you have, right, so like maybe your body forces you into a new journey mentally or spiritually or any of the above. They all coexist, and it's kind of like if you're in a rubber band, right? Like if you start to move one of your three, the facets of yourself in one direction, either that's going to get snapped back or the other two are going to get snapped forward, right?
Yeah.
And so I loved how you said that, like you don't know what you want, and that's where I'm at. So in my job, I talk about risk with people, and I love, bringing up like, well, what are our known knowns, right? Like, what are the risks we know about? We know the likelihood and the impact they'll have, and we are well aware, and hopefully we're getting prepared for them, right? Then there are the known unknowns, the risks that we know about, but we have no experience in, and the likelihood and impact is kind of low, but we know they exist in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the I so those are the I know what I don't know kind of things in life, right? What a lot of people kind of fail to think about, and what I'm so stuck on in terms of like who do I want to be, is I don't know what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And making a decision when I'm aware of like the vast choices around me is really overwhelming.
So that is overwhelming. And I have actually it's almost as if I have a remembrance feeling of that. Like I can remember being, I don't know, 17, 18, and just being almost like there's just so much that I could choose to do, and I don't know what to do because I don't know all my choices. And how can I choose to do something if I don't know all my choices? And so that in and of itself will just keep you stuck, because you're never you can't know everything. You just can't. However, I feel like if you can trust, if you can just trust that that the choices you are aware of are the best choices for you, or those are the choices you should choose from, that then once you make one of those choices, other choices open up. It's sort of like, what is that? What is that? What is that? Where like you take a step and then it's like, oh, now
A
I
decision
see.
tree opens.
Yeah, a decision tree opens. Or it's, like we've talked about before, choose your own adventure. They
Mm-hmm.
give you like 2 or 3 choices. They don't say, all right, here's 50 choices. They give you 2 or 3, and then that opens up 2 or 3 more.
I love that. And it's such a great point. Standing still is a risk in itself
Yeah.
because choices you didn't make, those doors could still close in the meantime.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
And I think where I'm kind of stuck, my, mythical fork in the road, and it's, I mean, it's, I don't know what it's called when you have like an asterisk in front of you, not just two choices to turn, but like I have a map and I know the directions I don't want to go, but I don't know the other options, right? Like the few that I'm aware of, the choices I'm prepared to make now, I know like that's not it, or they require another person, right? Like, and so I have to focus on making choices that would still leave me open to those paths, right? Or able to turn around or go back or whatever. Like-minded journeyman on the
Well,
trail.
this is where you need the plot twist, right?
Oh God, yes, Amy, write me a plot twist. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. There's that thing on TikTok. I think I keep sending them to you where like people are like intentionally making bad choices and then saying, "Well, I did it for the plot."
I did it for the plot. It's for the book.
I
It's
did it
for
for
the
the
plot.
plot of my
But
life.
here's the thing.
I did
You
this.
can decide. You can decide to do your own plot twist. Like you can just go, you know what? Here's a plot twist for today. I'm not going to do the thing I typically do in my schedule or something. You could have little tiny plot twists, and then
What?
that could lead you to a larger plot twist.
What is that movie with Will Ferrell where it turns out he's a character in somebody's book and he
Oh,
becomes aware
yeah.
of it? It
Yeah.
starts with an A, doesn't it? But anyways, I would like that situation. I would like you to make a day for me, but you don't actually know what I do during a day, a full day. And so it'll be really interesting to see what we end up doing. Um, Okay, so there was something in the book that I'm just stealing all of her thoughts, so don't pretend I'm brilliant by any means. So with this happily ever after, she calls like the return, so let's say you're going back home from your journey. She calls it
I just want to say one thing.
Hmm.
It's Christopher Vogler. So it's a
Oh, sorry.
he. Yeah. As much
Sorry,
as I
whenever
wish
you've
it
said
was a
Chris, I've
she.
assumed she.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he. So I'm stealing from him. But he calls the return the denouement. It's French.
Denouement. It's a
Denouement.
denouement. Yeah.
Denouement.
So that's sort of like when you think of like so it is on the downswing because you've had the dark night of the soul, you've had the climax, and now this is just like the wrapping up of the story, right?
Right. But what I liked about it, and I think kind of where I'm at with that, like, I don't really like the decisions in front of me, and I don't really know what the other choices are. So I'm just standing here till, someone else on the path points and goes, "Oh, that's what this road is," right? Like, but they talk about like the untying or unknotting of a conflict, or tying up loose ends in a story, and how to think of it like weaving, because you must finish your project properly or it'll seem tangled and ragged. And I was like, what a metaphor for my life right now, right? To like think of me as part of some weaving, some tapestry. Like we kind of talked about that at the very end of season 2, with like the mosaic of your life and painting
Yes.
it. But like, what if it's more a tapestry and a weaving, and it's up to me? Like I can go back and untie and unknot things, right? And maybe it won't look as pretty, or maybe it'll take more work, but I can backtrack.
Yeah.
Or like I can tie up my loose ends as I go. I can figure it out in the moment, because I don't want a tangled and ragged life. I kind of think is like why I'm just standing still, is I'm worried about the knots that I'm going to be making, not realizing I'm very patient. I'm a great knot untangler. Christmas lights stand no chance with me. Like,
My mom used to give me her necklaces to unknot
same.
because I love to just sit there and kind of tease it out, right? Figure it out, loosen it up.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
that's what I want to do, Amy. I want to tease out my life.
yeah. So how do you do it? Where do you start?
Well, like what I tried to do last year and failed spectacularly at was create excitement, right? Like create experiences, because that's how plot opens. That's how you meet new characters in your life, right? And so, as you may recall, I signed up for all these classes because they say if you want to do certain things, or if you want to meet people, go do what you like to do or want to do, and then you'll meet people who also like to do those things, and you'll meet a friend, right? So I signed up for all this stuff, and nobody else came. And I even confirmed ahead of time, like, did other people sign up? Like, what's like the general mix of company, this and that. And even events where like 8 people registered, I was the only one that came. And so in the moment, it was really easy to be like, well, okay, you know what? Like, as disappointing as that is, I got personalized one-on-one instruction for $35 and got to do all this stuff you usually don't get to do, and technically got like a level up or 2 teachings because they were able to assess me quickly. And like, I got connections and information on like fun stuff to do in this realm to meet people or to continue learning later, right? But it was still really disheartening because here I was like trying to create plot in my life, and my life was like, no, you're on pause. You're so on pause. This is a bottle episode. You're not leaving the house.
I think you were like a season ahead of the rest of the society, right? They wanted to sign up for these things. They did sign up for them. And then when it became a reality, they were like, oh no, I still want to be in my house.
The pilot wasn't picked up. They were still tied to their old shows. Yeah. They couldn't get out of contract.
I just think as people get more and more comfortable, I'm not going to say after the pandemic, but with COVID, that things will become busier. So you were ahead of your time for last year.
3 years into the pandemic. And it's funny you say that though, because like these spaces were busy spaces. There were other people there in other levels doing other things.
Just not what you had chosen.
It's not what I signed up for. Amy.
Okay, maybe you need some help with what you should sign up for.
See, you got to write my book. Stranger Than Fiction. That's the movie with Will Ferrell. That's the plot twist that I need. Okay, but so like one of the things that you tell me, all my personal tarot cards tell me, that your tarot readings tell me, my therapist tells me, is like patience. I'm just in a season of having to have patience, which when a show is on hiatus, that sucks, right? Like,
yeah, I also feel like this is that I am feeling your impatience with all this talk of patience, right? I think that at this point, you've been patient long enough. I actually feel that. So yeah,
I'm the choir.
I want to free you of that patience, because I feel like, how long are you supposed to freaking be patient? Like 8 years? What?
So it's ironic you say that, when in this moment or while writing the show notes today, I realized what I'm supposed to do while patiently being patient, while saying I'm being patient, while tip-tapping my toe out of frustration at the universe, while trying to force all these things, create these things. The way that the Christopher says in the writer's journey, the elixir, he talks about like oftentimes the hero, the heroine will come back with an elixir, something to give to the community, something to heal their own wounds, something to help, like something for the future, right? Like they'll come back with something, sorcerer's stone, right? Like, so they talk about how the elixir means implementing change in your daily life and using the lessons of adventure to heal your wounds. And so again, I didn't mean to make this about work for me, but at work, we talk about stuff called lessons learned. You guys do that, right? I mean, a lot of people and professions do. Mm-hmm. They're typically also called, or they've also known as after action reviews, which I think is really poignant when talking about like a journey and like what lessons you had, like, because you just took action. And so with so many journeys ahead and being at like this hiatus point, or like, I hit the checkpoint of my journey, right? Like think of a video game, like I hit the checkpoint, but it's like my game froze and I just can't do anything yet. It's like loading, next level, loading. And so you're just sitting there like watching other adventurers move past the checkpoint, and your game's like, nope, you're stuck. I realized maybe I have not been using these past 2 to 3 years of pause well. That, and I've been so future focused. And so, what do I want to do next? Drawing my own map or looking for, a path to take. Maybe this is just time to really look back on the lessons I've learned from the journey so far and repack my sack, my rough sack.
Oh my goodness.
What do I really need to carry with me moving forward?
Yeah, repack my sack. Okay, because obviously that has so many layers. So I find this so interesting too, especially since before the show, we were talking about journals and our love of them. And so I feel like what a wonderful vehicle for you to look back on these last few years is journaling, right? I mean, magic happens when you take this and put it through your arm and into your pen, and it flows out onto the paper. What?
So, how we've been talking about how we need to play more.
Yes.
So last night after work, I was like, oh God, you had a full day of meetings. You're exhausted. We're not just going to lay around though. We're not just going to watch TV, but we're also not going to make you self-improve anymore. We're not going to make you think about this, and you don't have to read any more books. You got a lot of books, but you've already read today. We are going to play a computer game that we initially deleted off our computer because we were playing it a little too much last year. And I was like, we're just gonna relax. We're gonna have fun. We can play it for 90 minutes and then get on with your life your day. I ended up playing it for 4 hours. And do you know why I ended up playing it for 4 hours? Because every 20 minutes, I got a different download in my brain and was turning behind me, grabbing my journal, writing 2 pages on the topic, getting stuff out of my head that's been there for ages. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, I can play now. Put the journal away, start playing again. And it's a very turn-based clicky game. It's not super involved. It's just kind of like a brain dump strategy type thing. And then 20 minutes would go by and I'd be like, oh God, another thought. And just download. I ended up just closing the game and just journaling all night. So you're right. Yeah, journaling's good. But
so I feel like what you did though is you got out of your what's happening? What is this about? Yes, you got out of your own way because your brain was distracted by the game. So your brain was busy with the game, and then the rest of you could be like, "Oh, hey, what about this?" Right? Oh, thank goodness they're busy. Right now, we can finally get our point across.
And when I do my morning pages, I do kind of tend to free write. But if I do kind of have a topic on my mind or something that comes forward, I try and stay with that and get it out. And then because it's part of my before work day, I do kind of have to stop journaling at some point, right? So sometimes I will kind of just stick with just one topic. And it's like last night, it was like, oh, we got 4 hours. Let's go.
I'm laughing because there have been many a morning that I'm like, my morning routine would be so much better if I didn't have to stop for work. If I could just have I know my daughter sent me.
I would be so healthy as a person if at 8:30 I could just keep being me for the rest of the day.
Exactly. So my daughter sent me this meme where the person is saying, I just need a good solid 8 hours for my morning routine. And I'm spot on. Absolutely. That's it. But the whole thing with that morning routine, you're absolutely right. If I could just keep being me and just relax into myself, right? Just
how much. And then sometimes I won't do certain topics because I was like, oh, that is not the mood we want to be in for the rest of the day, right? Other things could come up or we could feel, and we need to feel those emotions. But TikTok, you got to shower, right? You gotta do other stuff. And I mean, not that I'm always a taskmaster or won't let things out, but so journaling, you're right. Journaling, you're absolutely right, is a great way to kind of think about lessons learned. And just kind of reflect versus project, right? So when I'm sitting here, what do I do next? What do I do next? I get such analysis paralysis when I'm like, well, where have I been and what have I learned? That's a different brain.
That is a different brain. And it gives you a different feeling. Not what do I do next? What have I learned? I mean, that's 2 completely different feelings right there. And then what do I need in my backpack, right? What do I need in my
What do I
traveling
need? That is
sack?
something that I do write about, right? Needs, wants, and needs, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
great thing to kind of like put out into the universe and also remind yourself by
Yeah.
writing it down, right? Okay, so can I share with you some things that I feel like I've learned?
Yes.
Okay. So you know before the show when I like showed you like the 10,000 things I bought at a metaphysical store?
Yeah.
So so initially I wasn't gonna leave my house today because we just had a blizzard. And I like to play it cautious if I don't have to, but it's my half birthday today, the day of recording. And I was like, oh, you were gonna get a little treat, and you forgot to get a little treat, and we are not baking. So, and then I was like, you wanted to buy this one thing and it could be a gift for your half birthday. And as you saw, I spoiled myself rotten. I got more than one. I mean, technically, it's all in the same realm of a gift,
Yes.
right? It was the
Yes.
same thing in 9 forms. But part of like why this is on my head is I was like, okay, like what a great milestone marker. I hurt my back again. And so that like my 40-day sprint at the end of last year did help reset some bad habits. But
Mhm.
since then, I've just kind of felt stuck. And like the stuff I was like gearing forward and like my Q1 goals were so physical related. And I didn't set Q2 goals yet because it was going to depend on like what was going on during Q1. So I had like masterfully planned schedules and routines and like set up all these habits and done all this stuff. And then I hurt my back again. And just like, in addition to being in pain, like I just lost steam and I just got so disappointed. And so I was like, oh, today is your half birthday. Like you can reset. This can be your new year, right? Like every 6 weeks we celebrate a new personal new year, right? But I was
Yeah.
like, you have a set period of time where you could just do spiritual goals. You could just do mental goals, right? Like you could still prepare physically in other ways. Let's take this time, set new goals, figure out who we want to be, and like, hey, in 6 months, completely transform our life, right? And while that's like beautiful to be like, oh my God, in 6 months, it could be a different person. It's also like, oh my God, in 6 months, who am I going to be? I have to be a different person. Who is that person? Who is she? Who do we want it to be? What are we going to do? Right? Like so many steps ahead, right? So I was doing the reflecting and I realized, so a friend, someone I've recently started talking to, and we've been talking a lot about like tarot and self-improvement, spirituality. I showed him one of the books I got is The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss, from the Thought Catalog stuff. It's all over TikTok. It has been for like 3 years. And finally I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. It was a book club book for another podcast we listen to. And I like said, hey, this is gonna be my weekend. And he's like, you so do not need that. You seem like fully cooked in that area. Like you seem really well informed, really, balanced. I was like, man, boy, do I got you fooled. And so I was like, man, how? Because even, certain people in my life are all like, you got this. You overanalyze, you over prepare. But it's like, no, I know things about me that maybe I'm not sharing, right? Or that you're not seeing or you're giving me too much credit for. So my reflections have been, I spend a lot of time wishing versus then doing. And I have all
Mm.
this self-awareness and I'm like wishing for some things to just happen, to just like wake up in a new timeline, paradigm shift, right? Like quantum jump or leap, whatever the social media people say. And it's like, you got to do the work, right? Like, are you actually doing all that? Like I pay for all these meditations and they're like, journal on these topics or do these things between classes. And I don't do them. It's like, well, first of all, why'd you pay money for this? And second of all, why do you think things were going to change just because you did a 90-minute class, but then didn't do any of the follow up? Amy, you're acting like you get me on this. You're feeling it?
No, I'm acting like I think that it was possibly the last episode where I said, you can't just intellectualize something, you have to integrate it.
Integrate, yeah. And then there's awareness versus informed action. So again, it's that action piece, right? That like you can be hella self-aware. You can have so much self-help books in front of you. You can know it all. Are you using it? Are you integrating it?
Yeah.
And then just continuing to do the lessons learned because there's so many journeys ahead and I want a light pack but I want the right stuff in it. I don't know. What about you? Like, have you done any recent reflections or like in the past? Like, what are some of your
so
major things?
yeah, I will agree that I used to I used to also intellectualize things. I would read the book, and like the book could, at every chapter, could be like, now do these, go through these 5 questions. And I'd just be like, yep, okay. All right, let's just start the next chapter. And I'd never write down my answers. I would
Ooh.
never reflect.
Or I'll go
And it
back.
was
I'll
like,
totally do that later.
"Yeah, I'll do it later," or I don't need to do that.
I already know it. I'm in the middle of a book. I'm doing that too right now.
The first time I actually did that, it took me about, I don't know, 3 months to finish the book because it was so damn hard. Like, I was like, oh, that's why they want you to write this stuff out. This is hard. And it's making me really look at myself and see what I do and see how I want to change the things that I do. Like, it took me forever. So now it doesn't take me quite so long, but now I'm more open to actually doing the work.
And some of that for me, one of my recent lessons learned too was, oh my God, am I protecting myself from emotions that are there whether or not I'm doing this work?
Well, what about the book you were reading? And you were like,
yesterday. Sorry, I just yelled into everybody's ears. It, oh my God, it cracked me open, but it was like a wound that was festering that I had to open to allow it to heal, right? That like
yes,
I was
which
doing all
is
the wrong
why
things.
I said, well, that's why. So you said, oh, am I trying to protect myself from these emotions, feeling these emotions that are actually still there anyways, whether you're right. So this one, they were there just under the surface. And I love the way that you're like, they were festering the wound, but then you cracked it open and you cleaned it out.
And
Gosh, we have the metaphors
and you know what though? Like there's still so much work to do with them, but I'm not hiding with it. I'm not able to bulldoze through them like I want
yeah.
to, right?
Yeah.
Run down the hill. I'm slowly climbing with a rope and a guide. Taking breaks, right? Okay, so I have a feeling. I know we meant this to be a 6-week sprint. We'll see how next week Tracy feels. Thank you so much for listening, and please engage with us through social media or email. Like, review, and subscribe. You know how the internet works. You can find us either under the Brightly Podcast at gmail.com or Brightly Podcast. Nope, I did that wrong. The Brightly Podcast on socials and Brightly Podcast at gmail.com. So,
and I'm just going to add, we really appreciate you. Thank you. And we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.
bye.
Bye.